Okay, here we go with activity plate B5, activity B. So this is B5b. Okay, step number one, it says us to reproduce the wave pattern shown in the example. Construct a, there's the key, 4-inch square below using point B as the center. So from that center point, all I have to do on any whole inch, I just need to measure out 2 inches left to right. So that'll equal 4. And then I need to measure out 2 inches top to bottom. There's 2. And that will equal 4. That centers our square on our 4-inch square on that center mark. I'm going to draw light lines. You want to keep these lines, all of the initial lines in this activity, keep them fairly light. I'm going to go here for my horizontals using my t-square. I'm going to do my verticals using my t-square and my trusty 30-60 angle yet again. So there I have, start off with my 4-inch square. I'm going to clean up my corners. I would like it if you, when you're doing this activity, if you would keep your square a little lighter than mine. I wanted to make mine kind of dark so you could see what I'm doing. Okay, step number one, I'm going to go from my 60-30 angle to my, get a hold of it here, it's kind of hard to get a hold of. I'm going to go from my 60-30 to my 45. So I'm going to use my 45-degree angle for the next step. 45-degree angle and my t-square, so I can slide it across and get a nice straight edge. Step number one, I'm going to line up on these 2 long marks that they've given me, and I'm going to draw 2 ultra-light lines there and there. I'm going to come down a little bit because I want to catch that angle. I'm going to there and there. I'm going to draw right. I'm going to cut right across those lines. Then I'm going to come out to the tip of the short lines, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to slide over, and I'm going to draw light line there and come down to this one, to the short line, not the long line. Short line there, and I'm going to draw a light line there. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side, only they haven't given me, they made it a little bit easier for me. All I'm going to do is I'm going to do my 45-degree lines through those 2 points. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to draw a light line, I'm going to slide there, draw a light line, and I'll move the square so you can see what I did. So I have 2 lines drawn through those 2 points. Make sure you're through the right points. Then I'm going to slide it up a little, and I'm going to do the same thing on this edge. Through those 2 lines, I'm going to draw a light line there. I'm going to come here and draw a light line there. And then I'm going to be ready to start off the next part of the activity. I have a 1/2-inch square here. I have an 1/8 of an inch rectangle here and here, and I'm just going to reproduce those 2 measurements. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to use the standard side of my scale. I'm going to start from these outside points, here, 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 and here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to measure, getting out of the way, and I'm going to measure a 1/2, then an 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to use those 2 measurements. I'm going to use 1/2 inch and 1/8 of an inch. An 1/8 of an inch is just 2/16. I'm going to slide out to that last point. I'm going to mark a 1/2 and an 1/8 and a 1/2 and an 1/8. It's just a repeating pattern, and then when I get to the far outside of it, I'm going to lose it on the edge, but I'm still going to get one more 1/2-inch mark out on the edge. I'm going to do the same thing all directions on this. I'm going to go 1/2, then an 1/8. I'm going to go 1/2 and 1/8. I'm going to go 1/2 and 1/8, and then I'll get one last 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to do the same thing this direction. I'm going to go 1/2, 1/8, slide it, 1/2, 1/8, slide it, 1/2, 1/8, slide it, and I'm going to get one more 1/2 there. It's the same way on every edge. And then I'm going to come out this direction as well. And I'm going to come from this outside line. You're coming from the outside lines always. 1/2, 1/8, slide it, 1/2, 1/8, slide it, 1/2, 1/8, slide it, and then I should get, just like on the other corners, one more tiny 1/2-inch mark there. Then I'm going to just repeat exactly what I did in the center. I'm going to just draw very, very light lines through each one of those points that I made. And I'm just going to kind of speed through this so I can get on with the activity. The only thing that setting up this crosshatch pattern is doing is just setting us up for the final, the real active part of this activity. I'm going to come down and I'm going to do the same thing. Lines here. And lines here. And here. And here. I'm making my lines a little bit dark. You might want to make yours a little lighter. I'm just making them a little bit darker so you can see. Then I'm going to come this direction as well. So I'm going to slide my 45 over the other way. There. There. I'm going to come out and catch that tip. And I'm going to come up higher. I'm going to do the exact same thing. Now that right there is just a mess up. That's a pencil mark. We're not going to use that one. Don't get messed up. Don't get confused with any little marks that might be on your paper. Remember those measurements that we laid out, that half and then 1/8 of an inch. Those are the measurements that we are using. You got a half and 1/8 and a half and 1/8 and one more. And there's our half. So what we have here is we have kind of a plaid pattern. We have a plaid pattern with a 1/2 inch, then 1/8 inch, a 1/2 inch, 1/8, a 1/2 inch, 1/8, a 1/2 inch, 1/8, and we have that going all directions. Now, the activity gave us this weave pattern going left to right. So we got to do the one going right to left, then left to right, right to left, left to right, and I can just continue this all the way across the page. I'm going to show you how that's done. Okay, they've given us these two dark lines on the inside of the little 1/2 inch box. So I'm going to darken in these two lines on the inside of that box all the way to the outside of that square. And I'm going to make them nice and dark so they pop. So I've just done this one. Now I have to just slide my 45 this way and darken, darken those two inside lines. So I'm going to go this way again. And I'm going to slide my my 45, this way, and I'm going to darken and darken. Then I can come here and darken, and I kind of catch my little corner, and then I can take my eraser and I can lighten up my marks that I said. This is where it comes in handy to make those first marks kind of light. You can lighten those up, and you can kind of see the weave pattern starting to develop. There, 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 there. So I'm just going to drop down, and I'm going to do the same thing here. Here, and all I'm doing is sliding my 45 back and forth. And notice when I draw these inside lines, I'm going from the outside of this little square all the way to the outside of that one, from the outside of this one all the way to that one, so that way my weave patterns kind of tie together. So I'm here, and I'm here, and I'm going to slide it back again, and I'm here. Then I'm catching that silly little corner down there, so my weave pattern is finished. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to erase all those. I'm not going to really erase them. I'm just kind of lightening them up so you can kind of see the weave pattern happen. Now I've got this row done, so I'm going to move down to this row. Now they've given me this one, so I've got to go opposite directions this time. So every weave you want to make sure that you're going, if this one goes that way, you want to go that way with this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move in. They've given me my first line going that way, so I have to do the one on this side, which is this one. So I can darken there. Then I slide. Remember, every time you change direction, you just slide your 45-degree angle there and here. And just like on all these activities, this is probably a handy one to be able to pause and play as needed, because I know that this little weave pattern is kind of confusing, and I'm going to drop down and I'm going to go ahead and get this second row going. This is actually a pretty easy activity as long as you get those initial lines laid out. If something happens that your initial lines are wrong, I would strongly advise using that eraser and going back and getting those laid out correctly. Down here in the corner it gets a little tricky, because all you have, like up here in the activity, you have these little funny corners. Well, that's what I just created right here. And then I can take my eraser, lighten up. I'm just calling it lightening up. I'm not calling it completely erasing, because I'm just getting rid of those little initial layout lines. You can really see that weave pattern starting to develop now. Over, under, that way. And then I'm going to come to the inside here again. And it just gets a little simpler the farther you get. I'm going to slide it right. I'm going to bring my 45 back left. And the farther you get out to these outside edges, the fewer little weaves you have, so it gets a little bit easier. There. And I'm going to come inside here, go here, here. I'm going to drop down here, here. And I'm going to slide over there and get rid of those extras. Oh, and we're almost halfway through this. Follow directions, it's pretty easy. Come back to the center again. I always like to start at the center because that gets my weave pattern going the right direction. And then I just slide back and forth. I'm sliding this way. I can get it going here. And then I can get my pattern going here. If you get confused, sometimes with this I suggest people get confused if the weave patterns start kind of messing with your head a little bit, because it can do that, all the little lines back and forth, to kind of stand up and just take a different look at it. Got a little line there I need to get rid of. And then this last one is a little tricky, but if you're careful, you can follow it. Darken that one. And then we're going to slide this way. We're going to darken this one. We're going to darken that one. And we're going to come in here and darken this one. And we just finished the weave pattern all the way to this quadrant. Now all we have to do is work our way up. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. Probably talk a little bit less here because I just want you to watch. Make sure that you're darkening in on the correct lines. If you need to do a couple of rows and pause the video, that's okay. I would strongly suggest that. That's why I'm putting this on QuickTime. So you can use that pause function if you need to. Every time, it's just a simple slide back and forth with your 45, like that. Bring it down. Slide. I'm going to come back to the center again. Slide. Slide. Inside lines. Draw. Draw. Slide it. Draw. Draw. Slide it. And there's another one of those crazy little corners. I'm going to come this way. I'm going to draw. And my pencil lead is getting a little shorter. I break a lot of pencil lead on this activity, and it gets a little shorter. I can start bearing down a little more to make these darker, so it's easier for you and for me to see. There's that corner. I'm just going to ignore erasing those lines right now because I want to get through this. And I can come this way, go down. Got my head in the way, sorry. I don't know how long that's been that way. Okay, going through. Okay, and then I can go this way, that one, and that one. And then I can go here, catch that one, and that one. And then I can catch my very end. And by golly, oh, nope, see, I missed a couple of little ones here. Those corners are kind of tricky. You want to make sure that you get those. Get the corners. And then if I come back and I can clean up all of my little extras, and you can really, really see that weave pattern start to pop out. You get rid of just all of, be careful what you erase, but just all of the extra little light lines. And I erase. That's the end of activity B5b, which is the weave pattern. And that's all you need to do. Good luck.